If you were unfortunate enough to watch my top 25 matches of 2020, you'd know that I wasn't a massive fan of last year's Champions Carnival. The format of 2 5-person blocks took away a lot of the suspense because you could see who was going to win from a mile off. And in terms of match quality, it wasn't very high. It seemed like Kento Miyahara was the only person being given any sort of length. I'm a fan of short matches, but the short matches in last year's Champion Carnival weren't very good. The pacing of matches were off, so it felt like it finished out of nowhere. You'd get to the end of a match and think, oh, was that it? That's kind of disappointing. So it wasn't a good tournament. It had a great final, probably the best final of any of the round robins last year, but it wasn't a great tournament. Which meant I went into this year's Champions Carnival with a bit of apprehension. I mean, on paper, it does look great. Instead of having 2 blocks of 5, they've just had 1 big block of 10, which makes the carnival something unique without taking away any of the drama. Also, some of the weaker elements of last year's tournament were removed. Kuma, Arashi, and Yoshitatsu just didn't make the cut for this year's tournament. Jiro Kuroshio left to join NXT. Of all places, that's a weird signing. And taking their place was Koji Doi, Sanjiro Ohtani, and Kohei Sato. On all counts, I would comfortably call that an upgrade. So, this year's better on paper, but was it actually better? That's what we're here to discuss today. So, for the format of this video, I will begin by ranking the competitors. I've averaged out all star ratings I gave for the tournament, and that dictated the order of that list. And after that, I'll cover my top 10 matches of the tournament, and then after that I'll talk about any notes of interest I have going forward for All Japan. Sound good? Awesome, let's jump into the competitor rankings. Mate, this sucks. This just fucking sucks. If Ohtani kept up his average match performance, he would have been very high on the list. He was consistently just putting on bangers. His matches with Miyahara, Aoyagi, Ashino, and even Koji Doi were all worth going out your way to see. His whole angry old man thing just fits him perfectly. He's obviously not the Ohtani who was putting on classics with Liger back in '97, but what he's lost in mobility, he's gained in spite. The old man just went after the younger generation with such hatred. His slaps are vicious. You're just looking at it going, oh man, he just put one of the future stars of wrestling in their place. Unfortunately, he got injured in his Suwama match, which meant he had to forfeit his matches to Zeus and Sato. What's weird, despite the fact that he got injured very early on in the Suwama match, he kept going. Altogether, by nothing but hatred, he just sort of kept attacking Suwama with his less dominant arm. If he had made it to the end, he would be easy top 3. Unfortunately, I can't include him on the actual list because he didn't have as many matches as everyone else. With an average of 3.1, Koji Doi didn't have a bad tournament. All of his matches were solid at the very least, none of them fell into the territory of bad. Which is incredibly good considering that he's bottoming out this list. He even had a couple standout performances, most notably against Kento Miyahara in 2AW Square, where he just put on a Kento style banger. Then his match with Ohtani, which only went around 6 minutes but ruled your fucking world for the duration. Everything else was good, nothing else really hit anywhere near great. But for his position on the card, he's solid. Although he does look kind of stupid because he does have 2 double countouts to his name. Against Ohtani, it kind of made sense to me. They were too distracted by hitting each other to notice the count. But in Zeus's case, they're clearly just trying to get Zeus through to the final without any extra points. But in his Zeus match, I feel you could have given Doi the win there. You know, give someone in Total Eclipse who isn't Jake Lee some credibility. Tsuji Ishikawa is the picture of inconsistency. If he's on, he's going to give you something great. Like in his matches with Miyahara, Sato, and Ashino. He'll be hard hitting, he'll be brutal, he'll hit all his spots well. At his worst, he kind of just looks tired. I've seen praise for his match with Suwama, but both guys look tired. For me, it's the worst match of the tournament. Luckily, that was an outlier because Ishikawa was on more often than he wasn't in this tournament. Don't get me wrong, most of his matches were just good, not great, but they were still good, which makes it a massive improvement over last year's tournament output. Jake Lee spent so much time in this tournament being boring. It should have been more interesting. He just turned heel. But in 6 of his 9 matches, he was the least interesting part of that match. I really liked his match with Ashino. I thought it would establish what Lee would be like in this tournament. Urgent, vicious, going for quick wins. But then for the rest of the tournament, it was just Jake Lee, but he laughed sometimes. Whereas for Jake Lee, who brutalized Ashino in the first part of the tournament, we literally didn't see him again until the finals. Something like his match with Yuma Aoyagi should have been better, but Aoyagi had to carry Lee because Lee was so boring. I'm saying it over and over again, but imagine watching so many Jake Lee matches where he's boring. It was like Sanada in the G1. His performance in the finals definitely skews his average higher. We needed that Jake Lee for the rest of the tournament. We didn't have him. When I'm comparing you to G1 Sanada, that's not a good thing. Up your fucking game, Jake. Sato was surprising to me this tournament. I've since went back and watched his Suwama Triple Crown match, and I'm not massive on it. But in so many matches in the Carnival, he was just a house on fire. Hard hitting with very, very little bullshit. His match with Suwama was such a marked improvement over their Triple Crown match that you'd be forgiven for thinking they were 2 different competitors. His matches with Ashino and Kento were just wall-to-wall bangers. Absolutely nothing complicated. You're just in a violent zen state throughout the duration. He dragged Ishikawa to his best match of the tournament. And that's no mean feat. If Ishikawa's not going to cooperate with you, you're going to have a shit match. Everything else was kind of good, not great. Zeus tried to work a Randy Orton special with him, but then Sato kind of brought it back around at the end. Unfortunately, his match with Yuma fell flat for me. I couldn't tell you why. It just didn't hit for me. And it's an absolute dying shame that we never got to see that Ohtani match, because that would have fucked. That would have fucked so fucking hard. Like, holy fuck, inject that shit into my veins, Jesus. His output in this tournament has made me actively excited to see more of him, which is always a good thing. Zeus played a really good monster heel in the tournament, running away with it in the early stages of the tournament to the point where I thought he was going to win again. His opening match against Miyahara was so good, so very good. And when he was playing the wall against baby faces like Yuma Aoyagi, you just hated him. You hated him so much. Most of his performances were solid. They were very good, but those 2 are the only real standouts. But he was consistently good, and he played his character really, really well. He's someone who understands his role on the roster and just plays it to absolute perfection. Oh champion, our champion. I really enjoyed Suwama's output in this tournament because we didn't force him to go half an hour long. So many of Suwama's Triple Crown defenses have been harmed by the fact that he has to go long and he looks tired. About half his defenses hit and half his defenses miss because of this. But here, the fat is trimmed. He can just have matches that fuck. His matches with Sato, Aoyagi, Miyahara and Ashino all hit really, really well. Most of the rest of his output was good. People love his Zeus match, but personally I thought it could have ended sooner. They hit their emotional peak around 5 minutes before the end and then just kept going. The only match I didn't really like was his match with Ishikawa because they both looked tired. Everything seemed sloppy and not in the good way. But as the Triple Crown champion, Suwama did All Japan proud here. I fucking love Shotaro Ashino. That subgenre of small but incredibly strong is just inspiring. Great stuff. Fucking love it. His matches with Sato, Ishikawa, Ohtani and Suwama were all just great and nothing else fell into the realm of bad. He tried so hard in his Kento Miyahara match, but problem is Miyahara can't sell the leg to save his fucking life. Oh, what's that? You've been working over my leg on match and I shouldn't be able to run. Fuck you. Knee strike. He was never the worst part of any match he was in. He was always on equal pegging with his opponent or better. He didn't do incredibly well in the tournament, like he got 8 points but only just. All Japan seemed really hot and cold on him. He's either losing all the time or getting Triple Crown shots. We're a bit stop and go, which is a shame, but also I don't think Ashino's going to get a better position elsewhere, so I don't know. He's in a weird position. He's fucking great though. He's so good. He's so good, guys. Fucking hell, Yuma Aoyagi's theme is still in my head. The Carnival ended earlier this week. It's still in my head. It just gets stuck there and it's such a weird song for a fighter to come out to. Like, he's my beautiful baby boy and I will never tell him what to do, but mate, change your song. 5 of Yuma's 9 matches wound up on my match of the year thread. He pulled Jake Lee to his second best match of the tournament. He had great matches with Suwama and Zeus with similar dynamics of I want my baby boy to win. And then a great match with Miyahara, which is better than their Carnival match last year, but not quite as good as their Triple Crown match. Who was easily the breakout of this tournament. He just didn't have a bad match. And whilst not overtly charismatic like Miyahara, you feel yourself getting behind him in every single one of his performances. In the last year and a half, he's shown that he can work great in tags, and he can also work great in singles matches as both a face and a heel. After this tournament, he has a fairly convincing Wrestler of the Year case. He's really good in Next Stream, and then here he's worked really well with so many different kinds of opponents. My beautiful baby boy is doing so well for himself. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. This is so cliche. I'm going to be called a hack. I'm going to be called a fraud. They're going to reject me. Everyone on the internet's going to hate me. Absence has made the heart grow fonder when it comes to Kenta Miyahara singles matches. In the latter half of last year, all we got was his Carnival performances. And this year, while he's been performing really well in Next Stream with Yuma, the only singles match he's had was with Abdullah Kobayashi. Which, like, I'm not being funny, that's not... Who wanted that? Most of the people in this tournament had their best match with him. The only bad individual performance that Miyahara had all tournament was his Ashino match, which is pretty inexcusable. Seriously, buddy, I love you, but learn to sell the leg. Like, it's so frustrating to admit that you can't do something well. Just learn how to sell your leg, because you can sell everything else. I can see this being the bulk of Miyahara's singles performances this year, and if that's the case, he's built himself a very, very good case for Wrestler of the Year just in the tournament alone, let alone the stuff he's been doing with Yuma in Next Stream. Am I a bit biased? Yeah, I do love the man. I get unironically hyped up every time I see one of his entrances. He just has such a presence. I love him. I'm so sorry, I know I'm a hack, I know I'm a fraud. Don't turn off the video, no! This match didn't need to be any longer than the 6 minutes it went. This match probably couldn't have had any other ending than what it had. And also, I know that I like this match an unreasonable amount for what it actually was. Like, it was a 30-year-old and a 125-year-old just hitting each other until one crumbled and then one never crumbled. But for most of the duration, I was just filled with this violent glee. I was in this weird zen zone where I was like, yes, hammer him. And I didn't know who I wanted to win. I just knew that I wanted one of them to lose. Ohtani forced some personality out of Koji Doi. It was incredible. I really wish this match was more layered so I could articulate some amazing reason why I love it and people don't understand it, but there's nothing like that. I just love the fact that they hit each other for 6 minutes. Wrestling can be simple when you're trying to entertain a simple man. Old man is very annoyed that young person exists. Ohtani just punishes Yuma for seemingly no reason other than he's annoyed that young people exist. He's like if a baby boomer's Twitter account came to life. Aggressive veteran versus plucky babyface is a tried and tested formula in wrestling, and they did it so well here. It's not a match where you're going to find something deeper upon a rewatch. It's just something that works so well in the moment. This has a mixture of the previous 2 matches' dynamics. Ohtani is still the angry old man here, but Ashino is standing up to him strike for strike. But also trying to grapple Ohtani because he can outwork Ohtani on the mat, continuously going for that ankle lock, which he eventually wins with, and Ohtani, in a beautiful moment of veteran instinct, limps back to the back to sell the injury. Crowd are into it too. It's one of the loudest matches of the Champion Carnival up to that point. To be fair, that's not saying much. The loudest match of the Champion Carnival was in an empty arena, so... This ranks just slightly below their match for the Triple Crown earlier in the year. Honestly, both matches run on the same energy that I just want my beautiful baby boy to win. Buying in on every hope spot because I just want Yuma Aoyagi to be a future Triple Crown champion. And he will be because, as you know, other than Kenta Miyahara, I think he's the MVP of the tournament. If I were to pick the next first time Triple Crown champion based purely off of a Champion Carnival performance, I would go with Yuma. Because here, he's up against a mountainous challenge and he's so sympathetic. It would be a great change in dynamic after Suwama. Not to take anything away from Suwama, he played his role as the old, powerful veteran perfectly. But, my beautiful baby boy, he's doing so well. I'm so proud. I'm so fucking proud of him. Sato forced Ishikawa to have the best match he had all tournament. Sato was just wailing on Ishikawa and Ishikawa had to match that energy. I doubt it was even deliberate, it was probably just instinctual. He has to match the energy, otherwise what the fuck is he there for? There's nothing complicated here, there's nothing you're gonna find if you scratch under the surface. Rewatches will probably do nothing but hurt this match. Sato and Ishikawa just hit each other very hard for 10 minutes and I really enjoyed myself. I'm a simple man, you know this. Why do you come here expecting something deeper? This has the same energy as Aoyagi's matches with Suwama, except there's one key difference. My beautiful baby fucking boy did it. He overcame the monster. I'm so proud of him. The dynamic here is a classic one. Bastard veteran up against young upstart. Yuma not being able to outpower Zeus. Observably not being able to outpower Zeus. Having to outmaneuver the old man. The ending was absolutely perfect for the dynamic as well. Zeus hit a lariat which Aoyagi sold like he had been shot. And then when he went to follow it up, Aoyagi rolls him through for the butterfly lock for the win. And let me tell you, I was on the edge of my seat for that. And Yuma, my little boy, got a win over last year's Champion Carnival winner. I'm so proud. I'm such a fucking proud father. And again, not to take away from Zeus here, he played his role perfectly. But it's Yuma. I love him. I fucking love him. I'm so proud of him. He's done himself proud. Don't ask me how, but right now Suwama hits a lot harder in an empty arena. If you saw my match of the year list from last year, you'd know that this pairing is a pairing I love. And while it didn't live up to their match of the year last year, it's still very good. These two know how to work with each other to not expose their opponent's weakness. In Suwama's case, that means he knows not to go for the fucking legs. He just doesn't know how to sell the legs, does he? Fucking Kento. This was definitely the touring version of Suwama versus Miyahara. You know, they played the hits. They're not going to show any new material. These two work really well together, so it still makes for a really fun, really compelling match. Just doesn't hit the highs of their fairly layered classic last year. If there's one thing these two can do together, it's a fucking finishing stretch. Don't get me wrong, the rest of the match is good. It's just the finishing sequence is what really put it over the top. It just fucks. It just fucks so hard, guys. Once again, this is the touring version of Zeus vs Miyahara. It doesn't quite touch their Triple Crown matches or even their Champion Carnival match from last year, but they're throwing bombs like nobody's fucking business. Attempts at frog splashes, pile drivers on the apron, Zeus looking like a fucking badass, enduring so many knee strikes from Miyahara, and then throwing some sick fucking lariats that really neutralized the ace. And he got the win with the jackhammer, which I didn't expect. I really expected Miyahara to get his win back from last year. This set the perfect tone for the rest of the tournament. This was the most my heart struggled throughout the whole tournament. My boyfriend Kento Miyahara versus my son Yuma Aoyagi. Who am I going to root for? Who do I love more? I can't decide. This was nothing like their Triple Crown match last year. That match saw Yuma try to destroy Kento Miyahara's arm, which Miyahara sold, and it was a miracle, and it was one of the top 25 matches I watched last year. Aoyagi tried really hard to match Kento's style here, which isn't deep. You kind of just bang into each other until one of you falls down. Sorry, sometimes I just remember how simple Kento Miyahara is and then remember that I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world and I can't justify it, I just love him. But anyway, this match was wrestled to Kento's formula, which makes sense. They're friends again. Yuma isn't trying to hurt Kento here. Every time Kento and Yuma wrestles, it feels like Yuma gets that little bit closer to being able to beat Kento. Like in their Triple Crown match last year, it felt like Yuma had a strategy that could beat Kento, but he just wasn't talented enough to pull it off. But here, the fact that Yuma came so close to beating Kento at his own game does show a lot of progression. I think Yuma comes out of this match looking much better than he has coming out of any Miyahara match before. And you add on top of that these two are tag partners and therefore there's inherent intrigue when they face. It just leads to one of the matches that I'm most hype about coming out of this tournament. And one day my beautiful baby boy will surpass his father and I look forward to that day. Jake Lee finally showed the heel potential that we need from him in this match. Other than the Ashino match, he was probably the worst part of every single one of his matches. Until we get here, the Champion Carnival final. Lee hasn't had a match with this much stakes since his Triple Crown match last year, which incidentally is the last time he met Miyahara one-on-one. And fucking hell, he came in with a game plan. Even on occasions where he's beaten Miyahara, it didn't feel like Jake Lee ever came in with a game plan. He just tried to wrestle Kento's style. And it worked. I bought into all their matches, but for heel Jake, you needed something a bit different. You know, something a bit more, something that's going to make you believe that Jake Lee is a different man. Which, again, I can't stress enough, was a problem throughout this whole tournament. He just felt like old, boring Jake Lee, but with a funny laugh. But then he comes into this match and starts relentlessly targeting the gut of Kento Miyahara. Like, I don't see that part of the body targeted a lot. The most recent match I can think of that did that was Balor versus O'Reilly at TakeOver last year. And I can't think of much beyond that. I might just be stupid, but I can't remember many times where an attack on the gut was the main point of the match. Miyahara actually sold it. He was wrenching on the floor for this one. Lee wasn't doing this with glee. He was just doing this because he wanted to win. His heelish nature didn't feel performative here like it did for the rest of the tournament. It felt like he was an actual asshole trying to win a match. Then Miyahara's Miyahara, he's such a natural babyface. Unless you're a mega Jake Lee fan, Miyahara is your ace for the duration of this match. Something as simple as a kick to the stomach felt like it could have ended this match. And that's how you know when you've done limb targeting correctly, when something seemingly inane could be a convincing finish. Also, a shout out to how protected the shutdown suplex has become. It's a big fucking deal when someone kicks out of it, so when Jake kicks out of it here, he's very suddenly a bigger deal than he was going into this match. For me, this is definitely their best match. There's a little more to it than their other matches, which bang hard, but I don't have a ton to say about. But here, both men played their roles perfectly. As the default final of the Champion Carnival, it was perfect. And is about on par with Skywalker vs Ishida for my match of the year. And I fucking adored Ishida vs Skywalker, so that is high praise. If you watch no other match from a Champion Carnival, watch this. The first thing I want to talk about in this section is the format, because the format of last year's tournament was a bit flawed. The way they booked the two smaller blocks managed to take away a lot of the drama of half the matches. But in the single 10-person block, despite the fact the obvious outcome was Lee and Miyahara as the de facto final, I was guessing throughout the whole tournament. I think the single block format really works for the Carnival. The smaller field made everyone feel like a big deal. The field being exclusive automatically elevates you a little bit just for being in the tournament. And with the exception of Koji Doi, basically everyone felt like a big deal. Everyone was either a contender or a spoiler. Like, of course, Ohtani wasn't going to win the Champion Carnival, but he could beat one of your favourites and take them out of the tournament. It also helps set the Carnival apart from other round-robin tournaments, like New Japan's G1 Climax or Noah's N1 Victory. I felt completely different coming into the finals of the Carnival than I normally would coming into the finals of another round-robin. Things like the possibility of playoffs, the fact that you don't even need to be in the last match to win the Carnival, that adds so much, at least in the way of standing out from other round-robin leagues. Honestly, I hope they continue it, and I wouldn't even be mad if they expanded the field size. But also, if you look at the history of the Carnival, All Japan do have previous with fucking with the format. There's a possibility we might just get a completely different format next year, which would be a shame because this was a really good format. Last point of business today is where I see All Japan going from here. Providing nothing goes wrong, this video should be out before their big show on the 16th. And in my head, I'm pretty sure that Lee's going to make it through Suwama. Suwama did beat Jake in this tournament. It seems weird for me to do that and not have Jake beat Suwama and get his win back, especially since he surpassed his white whale in Miyahara. All Japan have a fair bit of momentum coming out of the Carnival. The people who watched it really enjoyed it. And so far they've had a very solid first half of the year. Their tag division is really good under Next Dream, and it gives Miyahara something to do while he's not in the main event, which for the record he probably shouldn't be for the rest of the year. Hopefully, Koji wins the belt back from Shima. I'm so done with Shima as junior champ. And if Koji wins it, All Japan has quietly been building a fairly solid junior division. And that, along with their rolling partnerships with 2AW and BJW, could prove to breathe new life into this junior division. Coming back to Lee, if he does win, where does he go? Seeing how he basically stole Ashino's stable, there's an inbuilt feud there. But also, Ashino does not have a solid challenge there. He got beaten by Jake Lee fairly convincingly. He only got beat by 3 people in the Carnival in Aoyagi, Ishikawa and Suwama. He already has a match with Suwama, and honestly both Ishikawa and Yuma fit perfectly for a first challenge. Either the tag partner of Jake Lee's eternal rival or the tag partner of the man he just beat for the Triple Crown. Or, if we're being really crazy, Naoya Nomura could come back. Maybe not as a first challenger because he doesn't have a claim, but it could be something interesting. They have history in Jin, but Jake Lee's a different man now. There could be some good dynamics there. And honestly, I take it over Jake Lee either facing someone he already faced in the Carnival or facing Yoshitatsu or someone. But also, this is All Japan we're talking about, so we can't just discount the possibility that we'll just say fuck it and keep it on Suwama. If there's one thing modern All Japan is good at, it's playing it safe even when it doesn't make sense to do so. And Suwama is safe. He's old reliable. He'll put on decent matches, he'll draw decently well, and he's not going to fuck off for another company. But All Japan would be stupid to do this. They'd be cutting the legs out from under Jake Lee again. Jake Lee doesn't win the title, he's going to be lost in the woods again. All Japan will be stagnant again. And it fucks with me, but that is a fairly large possibility. All Japan hasn't had a good year in a while. We get these moments of momentum and then they lose it. And even beyond that, they have the history of putting all their eggs in one basket and then having an exodus. Tenryu leaving to make Super Order Sports, Misawa leaving to make Noah, and Muto leaving to make Wrestle 1. And it slightly astounds me that the company don't learn from these mistakes and start pushing these younger talents properly, like Yuma, like Jake. When All Japan is good, I love it. There's something about its house style that just speaks to me. But I'm a part-time All Japan fan because they can't keep that momentum. All Japan, after the start of this year, has me hooked again. I just hope they don't get in their own way like they've done so many times before. Okay, thanks so much for watching if you made it this far into the video. What did you think of the Carnival? What was your favourite match? Did your predicted winner win? Let me know in the comments, and also if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can catch me on Twitter at ChrysalusPuro. I'm also on a couple of podcasts, Podmania, where we do watch-alongs. We basically have a wheel of matches, we let that wheel pick the matches, and then that's the match we watch. It's fun, it's stupid, I'm occasionally drunk. And then there's the Stardomcast, where I talk about the trash company that is Stardom. That's maybe a bit harsh, but we've not had a good second quarter of this year. Links to both of them in the description, as well as the Discord group for the Stardomcast. And that's it. There's nothing else. I'll see you next time.